Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Michael Parker. This is episode 20 of Antidote. And to paraphrase the late, great blues guy, Stevie Ray Vaughan, it's been raining down in Southern California, and there's a little mojo in the air. And on the occasion of this 20th episode of Antidote, we decided to do something a little different. So we're going to talk a little bit of rock and roll, because that's my personal antidote. You know, it's not every day that a great rock and roll band is born out of someone's birthday party, and especially a 50th birthday party. But that someone was Scott Ian of Anthrax. And the man who is at the very center of this band, an old friend of mine, Jim Wilson, joins us in the studio today.
Nice to be here, Michael.
Jim,
Thanks
good to see you.
You too.
So I haven't seen you in a long time. It's great to see you.
You too.
I have been listening to this record right here, Motor Sister, which is the band that we were discussing. And this has an interesting backstory. You used to be in a band called Mother Superior.
That's right.
And Mother Superior was a great rock and roll club act here in LA. We're going to talk about all the things you guys did. The band is not together now.
No, it's been some years now since we, it was a great band and good things happened, but we kind of got into a Ramones kind of thing where it just kind of seemed to be doing the same thing over and over again, and we were lucky to get some fans and some following in Europe and different places, especially in Spain and in France, and some French labels signed us. But it was a fun time and a great band, but it just kind of felt like it ran its course a bit. So and at that point, I'd getting ahead of myself, but I started playing with Daniel Lanois a lot, and was on the road with him, and just wanted to see if I could do other things myself, other kinds of music, write with other people. And so the band just kind of fell apart a bit, or wasn't sure what it was supposed to do next, or who was supposed to, put out the next record. And then with the European tours, we were kind of finishing the tour, and the labels that were putting out the records were small, so the guy from the label would show up at the final show of the tour and say, well, where's my cut for the CDs that you guys sold? Things like that. So we were learning by doing, and never really had the backing of a real label or a management even that helped us go ahead. So, I was very proud of the music that we created in Mother Superior, but just kind of felt, I did a solo tour of my own. I put out a solo record and still playing with other people. And at the same time, I'd been writing songs with Scott Ian's wife, Pearl Aday, who's Meatloaf's daughter also. And she makes her own records. And the idea came for Scott's 50th birthday party. He wanted to have a party, and he said, my ultimate gift to myself would be to play these Mother Superior songs with you as a singer, and we'll do it at my house. We'll invite some friends. We're only going to invite people that knew about Mother Superior, that were fans of Mother Superior. Joey Vera from Armored Saint and from Fates Warning is going to play bass. He's a big Mother Superior fan. He actually mixed some Mother Superior stuff back in the day. And John Tempesta from The Cult is the drummer. He loves your stuff. He wants to play too. And so I just said, okay, it sounds great,
Absolutely.
Scott picked the 12 songs that he wanted to play at the party, and I just kind of looked at the list and I said, all right, I remember these ones, and just kind of rehearsed by myself for a while. And then on the eve of the birthday party, the band got together for a little rehearsal sound check thing. And from the very first time that we busted into the first song, it was effortless, because those guys are such good players too, and Scott doesn't get enough credit for being a great guitar player.
Agreed.
I mean, he plays everything, and he's just so good. So he was there, Johnny was there, Pearl was there. She didn't want to sing a whole lot. She was, some of the times of that party, I remember her sitting down sometimes and then getting up for her parts or whatever. But she can wail, and so I felt good about the vocals, because I knew that I was going to have her support there too, and Joey Vera is just anything that he plays, he turns into a funky riff.
Well, these are great musicians, and before we go too far, I would like to play the video.
Okay.
Because the first time I saw this a couple of months ago, I was like, wow, that kicks ass. So if we can roll this video, it's called A-Hole. It's off the new album, Motor Sister. You're gonna dig this. That was Moto Sister. And you know what? In my opinion, that's way cooler than playing a laptop.
Thank you, yeah. And it's totally, you know, the record was recorded in 2 days, all the music was recorded live. You know, we wanted to keep it the same way that we did the party, so we basically found a studio that had a huge room, and we just all made a circle and just kept recording until, you know, each song we would do 3 or 4 times. Sometimes we got it right away, sometimes it took a couple takes, but the finished product is, you know, me, my guitar on the left side, Scott's guitar on the right side, and it's pretty much what you get. Sometimes when I have a guitar solo comes to, or is it the other way around? It might be the other way around. I might be on the right, but sometimes the solos get mixed up. But other than that, it's like, you know, plain and simple rock and roll record.
Ladies and gentlemen, very few records these days get made this way. I mean, usually it's Pro Tools, a lot of cut and paste, and it takes days, weeks, months. This record, pretty much live, 2 days,
well, even
rock and roll.
I think that the original idea still stems from Mother Superior, and
Right.
and that original trio had a sound. So we would go and play clubs in LA, and that's what we sounded like. And when we made the Mother Superior records, it was a little more, we don't have the budget to take a lot of time to record this album over a period of time. So we got to get it done in 3 days. But somehow that, we would just rehearse and get it together. And then when it came time to be in the studio, you really played.
Right.
And some of that came from working with Henry Rollins too, when we became Rollins Band. Henry is such a worker that we learned we can't go get drunk every night and have a hangover and play with Rollins the next day. It was total, the work ethic was a major part of that too. So when it came time for this new band, I've just got like-minded people that just want to plug in and crank it. Like we were talking about John Tempesta when we were watching the video. I mean, the guy's a monster, and it's really the way he plays, and it's really what it sounds like when we play together.
One of the reasons I wanted to have you in, I mean, I've known you for a long time, and I remember when you used to work at Aaron's Records, and I used to work there as well, and you mentioned Rollins, because in the early 90s, that particular record store was a very interesting place. I mean, I remember meeting Thurston Moore from Sonic Youth there and talking to him, and
you never knew who was going to come.
Yeah, I mean, there was always interesting people coming through, and Henry used to come in a lot. And so Mother Superiors is out there. You guys make 8 records or so over the course of your entire career, but for a while when you're at Aaron's, you meet Henry Rollins through that record store. And then he is going to produce one of the Mother Superior records?
Basically, I slipped him a Mother Superior CD when he was shopping one day.
As you do.
And he said, I'll give it a listen, because I'd already talked to him and helped him in the store or whatever, so he knew my face. And he said, oh, is this your band? I'll listen to it. And then sure enough, I can't remember now, it was, sometime in the 90s, it was either the same night or the next day, but it was very soon after I had handed him the CD that he actually called and said, wow, this stuff's really great. And I remember too, I was listening to Thin Lizzy when I answered the phone, and that was back in the day when we had to answer the phone because you didn't know who was calling. You know? So I was talking to Henry, and he said, are you listening to Thin Lizzy? And I said, yeah.
Who I know he loves.
That was just another thing that put it together, So after a little while, by 1998, he agreed to produce the 3rd album that we did, Deep. And then at the same time, he was recording with the original Rollins Band, and they were making their album Come In and Burn, I think. It was, the one after Liar. And it was just taking them forever. It took a couple years for the whole project to be complete. And he produced Mother Superior at the same time, and we recorded our album in 2 days or whatever, So he thought that was refreshing to him. He was, at that point in Rollins Band, the original band, it was that time where a band starts kind of, oh, I don't like that, and that kind of, because a band is, you have to compromise, and, it's hard work to keep a band together. People don't understand that they think that once you're in a band, it's easy. And even when you find a good band that's easy to be in, and you say, well, this is great or whatever, how could the Beatles ever break up? And then one day you go, oh, I can see how the Beatles broke up. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, I remember, the Rollins Band before you guys, I mean, there were some kind of almost proggy elements in there, and there were guys who were coming from kind of almost if I remember correctly, it seemed like kind of a New York kind of jazz art scene as well.
Absolutely,
So I could see where after a while, those kind of players, the metal hard rock thing, maybe they wanted to do different things, and that makes a record take a long time. Now you guys come along, he sees you crank out a record in 2 days.
Blaze through some songs. Also, we were rehearsing at, you probably remember this place too, it was called R&R Studios.
Of course.
We were rehearsing there, and he walked in to see us rehearse, and he said, wait, this is the first place that I ever sang with Black Flag. First time I ever sang with them was in one of these rooms. So, it was a lot of connection of where he came from and the streets, because, we used to rehearse at R&R Studios from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. because...
Cheap rates.
Yeah. And we would try to get together and play a couple nights a week. And, I kind of missed that spirit of Hollywood. It's kind of a lost thing, I think, Maybe there's still some rehearsal studios, but just the idea of, the raw angle of... But
well, let me ask you this about Rollins, because Rollins is he's a very interesting man, very well spoken, but he's intense as well. And I remember, when he would come in at Aaron's, I mean, he seemed like a cool guy, but his persona is one of a angry loner type. So how was that being in a band with an individual like that?
He was always super great to us. I mean, I think that once he realized that he could trust us and he could laugh with us, that it was okay to be however he wanted to be around us. So we had some silly times, and I'll give you an exclusive here as an example. There was one night on the tour bus, we were somewhere in Europe, and like I said, we weren't like partiers, but we drank here and there, and then we were about to take a drive on the tour bus, and Jason, the drummer, I think, poured some shots of Jack Daniels for everybody, including our tour manager, who would have a drink too, And Henry was sitting there, and we were all about to drink a shot, and Henry just leaned over and grabbed a shot and just sucked it down, and we were like, we couldn't believe it, So I think that he was like, having a good time at the same time.
Because
also,
he does have the image of a bit of an ascetic, where it's like,
I think if it comes out of you, then it's going to come out of him. But if you're cool to him, then
right on.
He's a good guy, and he's still like a brother to me. I talked to him, and he just did a podcast with his assistant Heidi, and they talked all about the Mother Superior years, and that was a trip for me. I was on tour in Canada, and this podcast comes out of Henry Rollins talking about Mother Superior for 90 minutes. And listening to that was like, hearing somebody in the other room saying great things about you, but you know what I mean? But you're like, it was a weird thing. But it was really great to hear his version of that era.
Well, you spent several years with Rollins, backing up Rollins, from 2000, 2002, something like that?
Well, we got together in 99. We recorded the first album in 99 and then did shows before it came out. It came out in 2000. And then by 2004 was we did an album called Rise Above. It was all Black Flag songs with different singers for the benefit of the West Memphis 3. Yeah. So that was exciting. That has Iggy Pop on it, Exene, and all these great people that Lemmy. Some days I wake up and I go, wow, I'm on a record with Iggy Pop. You know what I mean?
Pretty cool.
Just kind of happened because of that. So we did a tour of those Black Flag songs with Keith Morris and Henry, and it was incredible. The very last shows were in Japan, and Henry said, I kind of feel like I've done it all and I don't know what to do next. And in the meantime, Daniel Lanois had just seen us play at the Troubadour with Henry and called us over. So it was this weird thing that just kind of happened.
Let's explain to the audience. A lot of people will be aware of who Daniel Lanois is, but in case you don't, Daniel Lanois is a tremendous producer. Probably most famous for his work with U2. He produced some of my favorite U2 albums. He did the soundtrack to Sling Blade, I believe, which was a badass soundtrack.
Two Dylan albums?
Yeah, that's right. He did a couple Dylan. So I guess what interests me, I know a lot of musicians, but few musicians have the breadth of getting to work with the types of people that you get to work with. Because
I thought you were going to say Daniel.
Because, on one side, you're equally at home playing borderline metal or hard rock, all the way over to kind of the surrealistic folk country art that Daniel Lanois makes. And you've done some stuff with Emmylou Harris as well, I guess, via Daniel Lanois.
Yeah, I did 2 tours with her playing bass, which was amazing. And also, that's the thing that happened when I first met Daniel, and he saw that show, and he really dug it. And for the first couple years, he would have me playing rhythm guitar. And playing rhythm guitar with Daniel is kind of like, it's just kind of like what's that stuff you put on top of the Christmas tree when it's all lit
Tinsel.
up? Tinsel. It's just like, just a little bit of extra because he's doing everything. He's the greatest musician that I've ever played with. Just a guy who thinks about music in a different way and his guitar playing, you can't really, okay, maybe he's heard Hendrix somewhere along the line, maybe he's heard Neil Young, but it's his own thing, you know what I mean? And a lot of it comes from him playing pedal steel, and he doesn't use picks when he plays guitar, so he has that hand thing going too. So eventually, we took it down to a trio, and he said, do you play bass? And I said, well, I've played around with bass. Sure, I play bass, So it's been fun for me for the past 5 years or whatever, playing bass with Daniel and having people come up to me after Daniel shows and saying, you know, oh, I love your bass playing. Because in my mind, I'm still a guitar player, you know? So it's been teaching me so much about music and then singing harmonies. We sing at the shows, you know, I sing probably 90% of the vocals with him. We kind of turned it into like an Everly Brothers thing where we just sing everything in harmony, and we don't use monitors anymore. We just stand close and we just hear what each other's doing. You know, it's taught us a lot about music, and there've been a couple different drummers now, and they're all world-class.
Well, you
drummers.
did another interesting project with Daniel Lanois, with Trixie Whitley, the daughter of late great guitar player singer Chris Whitley, who I thought was just phenomenal.
He is, yeah.
Tell me about that with Trixie, because I've heard some of her solo material as well, and it was fantastic.
I remember first meeting Trixie. Daniel had, you know, Daniel knew her and her family for years, but then she came around and she was going to sing with us in Boston when we were playing there. So that was the first time that I met her. And Daniel said, I might make a record with her. So the record, Black Dub, was done with Brian Blade on drums, Daniel's longtime drummer, and Daryl Johnson, who had played in Daniel's band in the 90s.
And currently in the Stones, I guess.
Oh, that's Daryl Jones.
Daryl Jones,
Two
sorry.
different guys, yes. And Daryl did the Black Dub album but couldn't do the tour. So I was brought in for the tour to do with Black Dub. And it was, I mean, we toured the world. And Trixie is such a powerhouse singer, you know, that every night was different. And, you know, she's a multi-instrumentalist too. So she was playing, she would get on the drums with Brian Blade sometimes, and they would both be playing drums. And we just really, I mean, I think that's where the harmony thing started with Daniel and me and her, just really getting the harmonies together. So by the time that the Emmylou Harris tours came around, at first it was going to be a big band for those tours, and Daniel said, no, let's keep it a trio with Emmylou, and then that, you know, trim out all the fat. So I think that was kind of, this was kind of the beginning of that. But we see Trixie here and there, and there's talk, you know, of course, sometime there might be more music together. She's like family now, you know, and I know that I'm very lucky to know those people too, you know what I mean? And Chris's brother Dan,
Yes.
you know, and I just to even know who they all are and that they know who I am is pretty cool, you know.
And it goes beyond that. I mean, you also played with Sparks. And one of the things that I read about your work with Sparks is that at one point, I guess it was 2008, you guys did a 21-night stand in London. I think we got Mother Superior up here right now, not Sparks, but I don't think I have a Sparks photo. But you guys did 21 nights.
Yes.
In
21
London.
different albums.
21 different albums. Was this non-stop? Did you have some breaks between the shows? Or?
Well, it was usually 2 or 3 in a row and then there'd be a day off, but it doesn't seem like it now. It was pretty hectic. The best part about it is once you did one night, one certain album, you didn't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah.
But that was the other crazy thing too. You had one shot to do it. You know what I mean?
And it's an immense amount of material to learn.
Some of their more important albums that, you know, lots of people will say that they're top 5 ones or whatever. You know what I mean? It was very watched. You know what I mean? People were waiting to see what could happen. So we'd always make sure. You know, one of the reasons that I live in Los Angeles may be because of Sparks, just because I came from Delaware on the East Coast, and by the time I knew that I could get out of Delaware and go do something with music, Sparks was one of my favorite bands. In high school, I was in the fan club, you know, and it was one of those bands that I can recite all the lyrics right now, you know what I mean? It's just one of those bands that I grew up with, and it was that right time when you're 16.
Yep.
You just, you know, you don't have anything else, you don't have to pay any bills, so you can pay attention to the albums, you know. So I had been playing with Sparks for a couple years, doing shows here and there, playing guitar with them, and then Russell, the singer, called me one day and said, we have this crazy idea, we want to do something that's never been done before. Prince had just done
The 25 nights here in LA.
Yeah, but
which I went to, and it was great.
And his wasn't all different
Right.
material. So their thing was, we'll just do every album. And do you think that, you know, you could do that? And I was kind of like, do you guys think you can do that? Because, you know, I can still go back and listen to the first Sparks album anytime I want, and I'm sure that they probably don't go back and check it out. And I was telling you earlier when we were talking before the show that I think that was part of Ron, the keyboard player and the main songwriter's thing, is he didn't want to have to go back and listen to his past history. He just wanted to kind of say, he said, I don't care if these are exact versions of the record, it's how we play them, But of course we did try to stick to the great sounds and the great productions of each album. But, I just took it one day at a time, and it happened. We all lived in the same house in London. It was kind of like the Monkees, you know what I mean? You have breakfast with the band and go to sound check and do the show. And again, the Sparks fans were excited every night, and I have to say, I feel like I did something right, and it might have been because a lot of those songs hadn't been played in a long time. So for the fans to hear them, there's a lot of guitar solos on the early Sparks stuff. And I was the one who was getting to do those songs, and they hadn't been done in a long time. And people like Joe Elliott from Def Leppard were coming to those shows because musicians that were big Sparks fans, and I got to meet those people because of that, Marianne Faithfull and people that would show up. So it was amazing, and I love the Sparks guys too. And right now they just made a new album with Franz Ferdinand called FFS. It's the combination of the two bands together, but I talk to them all the time, and I'll definitely be doing some stuff with them again in the future.
Cool. Well, let's get back to Motor Sister a little bit, because I want to talk about some of the people in the band, just to reaffirm to the audience. The whole reason this band exists is because Scott Ian wanted to play your songs, Mother Superior songs, at his birthday party. And it went over so great, you guys decided to do a record. You did it in 2 days. So from what I understand, Pearl Aday, who is his wife,
Yes.
and she is the adopted daughter of Meatloaf.
Yes.
Now, you work with Pearl on another project, and so that's kind of another way this happened, or?
She makes records under her own name too, Pearl. Yes, but I remember even before I really knew Scott that him and Pearl, who I hadn't even met yet, were coming to our shows. Viper Room, Denver, Colorado, we were touring with Wayne Kramer, and hey, Scott Ian was in the audience, So I knew that he was listening, and I knew that he was a fan. I remember giving him some demos at the Viper Room once, like after a show. Here's some stuff we're working on, So at some point, we had talked to Pearl, and she was touring with Motley Crue at the time as one of the background singers, and she was going to be making her own music. So would you guys like to write some songs together? And that's kind of how that started. And for some reason, me and Pearl just have, our voices just kind of match, especially for male-female duet songs too, So we have a lot of songs where we sing harmony together. So that's another, you don't get that all the time. A lot of people sing and you can sing with them, but there's certain voices that just kind of match, So we've been making a new record now with Pearl singing all the songs under her name, which is going to come out soon too, which is a little more country-ish, a little more, not country, but maybe Southern rock.
Laurel Canyon kind of
Laurel
vibe.
Canyon, yeah, totally, and Eagles.
It makes
and Linda
sense.
Ronstadt kind of stuff. We have a bigger band for that with Fred Mandel on keyboards, who played with Elton John and Queen. And there's Pedal Steel on tracks, and it's it's produced by the same guy, Jay Rustin, who did the Motor Sister record. So it's coming, but it's just another avenue. So they're like, Scott and Pearl are like family for me.
Well, so I know that Anthrax is getting ready to do a tour, and I don't know if this kicks off their tour, but I just read yesterday or day before that they're doing, I guess, the last metal show at House of Blues here in LA. And I know you and I discussed this. Pardon me if we've discussed it in the show already. I don't. It's interesting because you and I, having been in LA for so long, it's a bummer that we are going to lose another piece of our cultural legacy to additional retail space in high-rise condominiums. So they're going to knock down the House of Blues here in a matter of months or something. But anyway, so Anthrax is going to do a show there in the end of July. So are they doing a tour following that?
They are. They've been doing festivals here and there, but then they're going out with Motorhead sometime in August or the beginning of September, and I think it's just enough time for us to do the Motorhead cruise. Motor Sister is going to be playing on the Motorhead cruise.
And when is that?
That's September 28th through October 5th, I think, something like that.
So you guys will be doing shows as Motor Sister at that time on a boat?
On a boat, yeah, with a bunch of other bands, with Overkill and Slayer and, of course, Motorhead.
Get your metal on, man.
Yeah, and it's Suicidal Tendencies. It's going to be really fun. I mean, I'm surprised to find out that we only play twice on the 5-day cruise or whatever, because I was hoping that we'd play every day,
Sure.
So there is going to be a little time for drinking and hanging out, I would think.
That didn't sound bad. Well, the record's really good. I mean, listen, when I listen to it, just like the people in the band say, I mean, I hear a lot of 70s rock influences, and certainly that is unfortunately anachronistic kind of in this day and age. What are you listening to right now? I mean, what knocks you out that's out there?
Wow, you mean something that's new?
Yes.
Not much, I'm ashamed to say. I mean, I try to listen to everything, and I still try to listen to the radio here and there, so I can hear what Taylor Swift sounds like, so
Sure.
I can hear what whoever is, you know what I mean? And I get to know it that way, and I kind of, when I'm passing by somewhere, I just want to know, what it is. But I would never buy it and bring it home. There's a new record by the Hayden triplets that I like. They're three
Petra
sisters.
Hayden and Charlie Hayden's daughters.
Oh, yes, Charlie Hayden's daughters. They made a great natural record that then they sing amazingly on. So that's a new record that I'm proud to say.
Charlie Hayden was the bass player for Ornette Coleman, and Ornette Coleman unfortunately passed away just recently. So the Hayden sisters, I'll look for that.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. And I'm still discovering deeper catalog by bands that I missed the first time around. And I still listen to the same old stuff too. You can walk into my place right now and I'm sure there'll be a Squeeze album laying there, and I'm sure there'll, be some Stones or whatever, So, and the vinyl thing is kind of, I've always been a vinyl collector, but it's exciting for me to see that coming back around too.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, because you are a full-time musician and you are playing with these various artists and they're all eclectic, and you got the Motor Sister thing happening, but as a musician who's out there right now, I mean, the business has changed so much.
So much.
And it's made it, it looks to me like it's made it difficult to continue to make a living in the game. And so what are you wanting to do going forward? Do you have some immediate plans for Jim Wilson, or?
Well, it's strange because before this Scott's birthday party happened, this wasn't even,
on the table.
I thought that those songs from the Mother Superior days were kind of behind me. Sure, maybe I'll revisit one here and there or whatever, but I never thought that this was going to take up the majority of my time. So I already have the basis of another solo album finished that I'm going to be working on with Joey Vera, finishing up the tracks for that. So I will do another record on my own. And it's funny because, things have changed so much and the business has changed so much. But in some ways, I feel like I was lucky that I never had to deal with all the major label crap from the past, because to put it in another way, when we were making the original Mother Superior records and we were recording the stuff ourselves and putting them out on our own labels, Henry used to say, "You guys are laughing, you own all your masters."
Right.
But at the time, I thought, well, the masters aren't doing any good in my bedroom on the shelf if nobody's hearing them, you know what I mean? But now, over time, because of downloads and all those things, there's bands like Def Leppard and Kiss that go re-record their biggest hits so they don't have to pay money to their old record label, So my old record label is me, and so it's kind of nice for, especially when the Motor Sister record came out, and then, people start downloading old Mother Superior stuff, and, so that's kind of changed for the better for me. And not to mention that, a great label like Metal Blade came to me and said, "Do you want to make a record this year?" So,
Well, speaking of, I want to say thank you to Trixie for letting us play the video today. I really appreciate that. When you talk about kind of the indie DIY ethic, I think about the 80s, indie rock that was happening in the 80s, going into the 90s. There was a feeling even then that, hey, listen, the more that we can do ourselves, the better. So
And Aaron's was a great place for that.
exactly.
I was seeing all these bands put out all these 7-inch singles on the wall of Aaron's.
Which was interesting to me because at the time I was like, a 45?
Yeah, I know. I remember that. Yeah,
But
it was wild.
hey, it was prescient. I
Yeah,
mean, it
yeah.
was an interesting move to make.
And it said to me, like, why are you waiting for these guys? There was a guy from a little label in LA that was having us do showcases. I swear we did like 4 showcases for the guy, trying to impress his bosses and things. And that guy led us around for probably a year. Just, when we get this record together, and then you don't hear from him for a month, and then what's that? Oh, it's still happening. We're going to do, and then a year goes by, and it's like, no more of this, So that was good for the indie thing, was just like, let's do this ourselves. And, because of the connections that we had working in record stores, we could actually get to distributors and, get them out there. And through Tower Records, we used Bayside distribution, which took it, everywhere, So those are different days for sure. And I have to say that, I still listen to as much music as I did then, but, I do wish that there was more than just Amoeba, I love Amoeba. I love going in there.
I do too. I mean, I mentioned on the show the other day, I had Ken Calais in here who produced Rumors.
Of course, yeah.
And we were talking about just how the whole retail space has changed, because when I was growing up, I spent a lot of time in record stores, and there were a lot of record stores. Record stores and libraries. I was a total geek.
Yeah.
Like, that's where I went. And now, I mean, I know that there's other record stores in town, but I think of Amoeba, and a lot of love for Amoeba, but it's just a shame that that's the only one I can think of really strongly right off the bat.
Right.
And music still has value. The other thing that's changed about the business, people, and Ken Calais made this point as well, it's like when you download a song, he made the point that, like, if I download it on my phone doesn't get any heavier, so it's like, where's the perceived value of music? And listen, it's an old argument, but...
Not to mention all the copies of Rumors, the physical copies that have his name on it, but then a download, people won't even know who Ken Calais is because you don't see the credits unless you go look for them. You know what I mean?
Right. And
I know the name from looking at the cover, you know what I mean?
Which that also makes another interesting point, which is that when pop artists go to make records today, it's a different animal as well, in that a lot of times you'll have a cast of producers who've combined all these beats and tracks together, and then the vocalist sings over at the very end. Whereas, the business used to be you formed a band or what have you, and you got your chops together. I'm not saying it's better or worse, it just is. It's a different animal. That's the way it is. I mean, my daughters listen to music now, and they love music. And it's just interesting to see what they're exposed to versus what you and I grew up with. So I guess that brings me back to, so what now for Jim Wilson? Because you've got all these great eclectic gigs that you get to do, but I know that first and foremost, you're a songwriter, and I know you want to create more.
Yeah, and I have a lot more. I've already been stockpiling riffs for the next Motor Sister record too.
So there will be another Motor Sister record.
I mean, there's going to be something, and it's going to be probably, I would like to think, 80% original material, and then maybe we'll do a couple of the ones that Scott forgot from the first round or whatever, or it might be all original if we get, it's going to have to be, I mean, this is kind of like a compilation of songs, even though they're all new recordings, you know what I mean? So the next album is going to kind of like have to be as strong as this group that's from all different times, you know what I mean? But I got some good ones I'm excited about, and going to get together with John Tempesta soon and just do some Jimmy Page, John Bonham kind of riffing on them, and then get things solidified and then bring it to the rest of the band.
And would you put it out on Metal Blade again?
Oh, I hope so.
Cool. Like I say, I mean, I think it's way cool that Metal Blade wanted to put this record out.
They're the best. It's been really great.
I think it's really cool because, listen, I mean, the world could use more real rock and roll, and you guys certainly delivered on this. So kudos to you and to the band. I hope to get to see Motor Sister.
We're coming. We're going to be doing, and there's already shows being planned for January 2016, English shows, European shows. So that's coming together right now. And we're going to play as much as we can. It's basically just everybody's in another band, so
Sure.
we just have to work on the schedules. But it's when we get together and we play together, it's just a natural thing. So,
Well, metalheads, there's a lot of really bitchin' metal guys in this band, so I would encourage you to go out and pick out Motor Sister. The brand new album is called Ride.
it's on
Jim
double
Wilson.
vinyl as well.
It's on what now?
Double vinyl.
Double vinyl?
Yep.
So was there outtakes?
No, it's they did the first pressing of the vinyl with 6 songs on each side, and it just kind of really controlled the sound.
Sure.
So it was Metal Blade's idea to just put 3 songs on each side and make them really fat. So it's
Wider
got
the groove, the better the sound.
Amazing bottom on it, and yeah, it sounds incredible. Color inner sleeves with the lyrics and everything. I feel like Bernie Taupin with the lyrics printed.
But do I get any Motor Sister tattoos to stick on?
Anytime you want. We're all talking about getting them at some point. We'll see what happens.
Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Michael Parker. This is the 20th episode of Antidote. Every now and then we'd like to not talk about the woes of the world and actually just celebrate some good, fun things, and rock and roll is certainly in there. Jim, it's great to see you again, my friend.
Thanks for having me on. It was
Thank you,
fun.
brother.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been episode 20. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll join us next week. My name is Michael Parker. Until next week, remember, you, me, every single one of us, we're the antidote.